So, Dennis, I understand you've seen the new film Unknown, which deals in part with identity theft. Do you have any thoughts on this movie?
I do. First of all, I'm not a movie critic, so I don't have thoughts as far as that's concerned. Other than I enjoyed the movie personally. I do like Liam Neeson as an actor, and I like these type of movies, especially because it relates to my profession. But as far as the movie itself and how it relates, I'm sure you've probably seen the preview or read about it. And what happens is Liam Neeson his role is Dr. Harris, and he awakens from a coma after a car accident while in Berlin. And his wife doesn't recognize him, and another person, who's Aidan Quinn, has assumed his identity. So it's an interesting concept, but it is Hollywood. That's not really how it works in real life. Typically, if your identity is stolen in real life, you don't lose your wife as well, unless potentially, I guess, it could cause a divorce. So it's an interesting film, and I guess my takeaways or some of my interests is it really dramatizes and conveys some of the feelings that victims of identity theft have, those feelings of basically isolation and helplessness, that it's kind of you against the world to prove that you are who you say you are. In more of the advanced cases of identity theft, and that's not necessarily somebody steals your credit card and you get a call from your bank. That's in a lot of cases like that. It's pretty simple, straightforward. So that's my synopsis, I guess.
What is your expertise in the field of identity theft?
Well, my expertise is essentially everything, because to be an expert in the field of identity theft, you have to wear a lot of hats. Now, I don't have one particular angle. For example, I'm not an identity theft lawyer. I'm not an identity theft online person or data security expert. What I have found is that most people don't really care about things that are more advanced within a specific discipline, because they don't even understand the basics of identity theft. So what I've done in my book and some of the organizations that I've developed is I've taken the high level identity theft concepts and try to bring that down and drill it down to a level that the average person can actually use it, and they're not just getting bombarded with information they don't quite understand.
So tell me about your book.
All right. Well, the name of the book, first of all, it's called The Official Identity Theft Prevention Handbook. And what I've done in the book is, as I was just kind of explaining, is I've dove deep into identity theft and tried to come back out of it with good takeaways. And most importantly, is showing people easy to use, easy to implement prevention tactics. And one of the reasons I wrote the book is I used to be a partner in the banking industry, so I witnessed, I guess, firsthand some of the devastation that identity theft has both on individuals and society in total. And I recognized that there were very few people that understood what they were talking about. So as I dove a little bit further into it, not only were there few people that know what they're talking about, the trusted sources, which would be considered maybe some of the identity theft prevention companies or the credit reporting agencies or even the government, was really disseminating information that was just false. So what I decided to do is write a book to just say, here it is, people, in plain English. Here's how it works. Here's why it works this way. And here's how you can best prevent becoming a victim.
What was some of the false advice that people were giving out about identity theft?
Well, one of the most recognizable things is the CEO from LifeLock, Todd Davis. Remember a couple of years ago where, he advertised his Social Security number nationally. And he had a guarantee that he was so confident in their product that his identity would not be stolen. Well, not only was his identity stolen, it was stolen over 13 times. What LifeLock had done is they made a calculated decision. So what if Todd gets his identity stolen? We're going to make so much money because it's a great brand. It's a great marketing idea to do that. So they were fined $13 million by the FTC. They were also sued by Experian in the way that they were doing fraud alerts. So I don't want to get too technical because it might be a little advanced for this, but I'm more than happy to talk about any of this stuff, and it is detailed in the book. They were sued by Experian because they were placing fraud alerts on behalf of their consumers. Now, what a fraud alert does is it makes it such that in the credit issuing process, that the credit issuer, the bank, MasterCard, whomever, has to validate that the applicant really is who he or she claims the applicant is. Well, that should be a normal part of the process, but it's not. Now, how you can add that is you can place a fraud alert, and this is one of my tips that I'll forward to you later, is that you can add a fraud alert to your credit file, and what happens is in that process, if you're at Nordstrom's applying for a credit card, they see that fraud alert, Normally what they'll do is they'll give you a call on the phone number you listed to make certain that's really you at Nordstrom's applying for that credit card. So Experian sued them to stop them from placing fraud alerts, which seems counterintuitive, because why would the credit bureau care that they're making certain that you would think they would be encouraging people to make certain that the person that's really receiving credit is that person, but they don't care, and that gets in the way of their profits. Understand?
Yeah.
And then even more importantly is how are they disseminating incorrect information is what most people do now, or most organizations, is they sell these credit monitoring services, and they market those as identity theft prevention. But by definition, that's not prevention. That's alerting you after the fact. And it's not alerting you of identity theft, it's alerting you of a change in your credit profile. So it's a detection product, which is fine if you understand that, but consumers think they're getting a prevention product. And the reason that they do that is because that's where they can make their money. Again, it's fine to be profit motivated. That's why we're all here. But you can't be so overly profit motivated that you're really preying on the ignorance of the populace is what it comes down to. So it's kind of, and if you go one step further, the credit bureaus are required by law to keep accurate information on you. So why are you paying them to make certain the information is correct? They should be paying you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
The whole conversation, the whole public dialogue is so far off base right now. When you take a step back, and this is not conspiracy theory stuff, this is all pretty much right in the open if you just think about it for a second. Wait a second, if you read the Fair Credit Reporting Act, it says that these people are collecting information on you, which you never authorized them, but as society we say that that's okay. But if that information is incorrect, they have a legal responsibility to you to make sure that it's accurate. So what do? Instead of devoting resources to making sure that information is accurate, they develop a product which you pay them for to make certain it's accurate. They don't have any skin in the game, is what it comes down to.
And it's so ubiquitous. Like every time you renew a credit card or get a new credit card, they always seem to try to upsell that product to you of credit monitoring.
You're absolutely right. And almost even worse than that, it's become almost a standard operating procedure now. Whenever there's a data breach for these large organizations, universities, hospitals, the knee-jerk reaction, and there's even some legislation right now on the docket where they may pass this into law, is if there's a data breach, you must offer the people that are part of the data breach a credit monitoring product to prevent identity theft. And I read this stuff, and it just makes my blood boil. I'm like, you're not preventing identity theft. The product may be okay. So now you think about it. As a client, you get this product for free for 1 year, and you feel completely exposed. What happens? You naturally continue that product a year later, and now you're paying for it. Yeah. It's just a whole infrastructure and system that's just based on kind of false positives. But they're not that complicated. When you take a step back, none of this is that complicated, but it's just you got to connect the dots to see what's happening.
So how dangerous is it to go public with your Social Security number?
It's identity suicide, I guess. You don't want to offer that up. Another important, I guess along those lines, what's important, and there's not this distinguishment in the public dialogue, there's two really classifications of identity theft. One is when your identity is stolen, is the basic version of identity theft. But the second is when you become a victim. So to use an analogy, it's a little hard to explain this stuff because it's more conceptual. It's not a physical, paper product. Imagine somebody takes your credit card. Well, your credit card has already been stolen. Now, when they use it, you become a victim. Well, the way that we talk about identity theft, it's not until you become a victim that you've actually had your identity stolen, which is not true. If your data is breached, that person intends to use your information, so you've already become a statistic of identity theft. Now, once they use it, you become a victim. So I guess where my point is, you don't want to publicize your Social Security number because that kind of stuff will get picked up pretty quickly on the social networks, etc.
I remember this writer for GQ magazine, posted his, in an article for GQ, posted his Social Security number, home address, and all sorts of other things. I'm just kind of curious whatever happened to him for doing that.
I mean, chances are that he probably, really, if he posted that in such a public forum, chances are he had some issues. Because the thieves now are sophisticated enough where they'll crawl through your trash. I don't know if that's sophisticated. But there's certainly a lot of identity theft that still happens the old-fashioned way. It's the easiest thing to assume is all this stuff happens electronically, and a lot of it doesn't.